HomeShow Garden Pros, helping to turn your thumb green.
Well, hello. This is the live version of Garden Pros, HomeShow Garden Pros, part of the HomeShow radio family. So we are a radio show every single Saturday, sports radio 610 on Saturday mornings, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we love answering gardening questions. That's what we do. We talk gardening, all about getting good information out to you, be you a listener, watcher, consumer, however it is that you like to get your gardening information. Our big goal is to give you excellent information. And we do that by assembling knowledge specialists that really know their stuff. So normally on the radio show, we have kind of a cycle through of our co-op members. They are our phenomenal knowledge specialists from all over the city. And what we do is we've found these amazing kind of destination garden centers, and they've sent us their knowledge person, their person that knows stuff. So Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens out there in Katy, great spot in Katy. Down southwest, you got Enchanted Forest and Enchanted Gardens. Bunch of smart people down there too. Up to 49, just past Louetta, plants for all seasons. Sherry comes in all the time from there. And then Kingwood, you got Kingwood Garden Center and Warren Southern Gardens, dishing out great information. And also Nature's Way Resources has an incredible garden center up 45, almost all the way to Conroe, just past the Woodlands, great spot up there. So they're sending us all their great garden knowledge specialists to dish out information. So that's Saturdays. This is Wednesdays. So our goal here is to answer questions, and we glean our questions from our website, homeshowgardenpros.com. There's the Ask a Pro button. The website's worth a visit. We have a ton of video content, some kind of just written content, a couple tips on there. Great place to get your questions answered just generally. So just going for the videos is enough because they're good stuff. Now we bring on people from nonprofits and gardening clubs on the live version here on Wednesdays. And with me is the wonderful Carol Burton from Urban Harvest. Hey, Carol.
Hello, Dany. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you? What's up with Urban Harvest?
We are doing a lot of teaching in the garden. We had a class yesterday that was live streaming from our teaching garden. And next
awesome.
week, we have John Ferguson of Nature's Way Resources, who is going to present a class in person and virtual on soil, compost, and mulch. So if you want to learn more about soil, compost, and mulch, see our website, urbanharvest.org, that class with John Ferguson.
John Ferguson's one of our co-op members. That's so cool. Wow, look at that. The Home Show Garden Pros getting around, getting over there, helping out with Urban Harvest. That's awesome. So with
Yes.
John, it's usually a pretty deep dive into soils. So this is a great chance for people to really learn what's going on under their feet.
That's right. And, we also have another fruit tree care class coming up on summer pruning.
Ooh.
And that's this coming Wednesday. That's next Wednesday. And then Saturday is square foot gardening. It's square foot gardening for the Houston region.
Nice.
With a list of plants, tips, and tricks. So lots of gardening knowledge coming your way out to the public for everybody that's watching. So if you're vegetable gardening and you want to take it deeper and increase your production, want to do some care for your fruit trees, we have the summer fruit tree care and pruning class. And then to dive deeper with soils, then we have John Ferguson.
Well, that is super cool. Unbelievably cool. And he is so knowledgeable. Now, square foot gardening, that is the method where you kind of you strategize and you measure out your garden. And then based on the size of the plant, you put that number of plants in each little square. Is that right?
Yes. So I see my screen is freezing. You do. It's per square foot. You determine how many plants can fit in 1 square foot. And so it's adapted for the Gulf Coast region with plants that like our hot and humid weather.
Yeah, and it's just an adaptable one. I know that was a book and kind of a movement a while ago, and then you really had to change things because Houston, we have some really large veggie plants. Looking at you, eggplant, okra, tomatoes, they get really, really big. And so you got to kind of modify the size a little bit, maybe even take up 4 squares with some of those. That is so cool. That is so, so cool. So some noise was just made. My phone is cool. Anyway, that's awesome. Well, Carol, I'm excited about those classes. If you didn't hear those, summer pruning, which summer pruning can actually lead to bigger fruit. and a healthier tree. If your fruit's already produced fruit, it's good to kind of follow up. But if you're interested in bigger fruit, hey, maybe this is a class that you jump in on. You know, who doesn't want bigger fruit? I think of things like lemons when I think of summer pruning. And I don't know if you guys cover that in the class, but would I rather have 250 small lemons or like 125 really big lemons? The answer for me is pretty easy. I'd rather have those big lemons.
There you go. Well, for our school gardens, we actually like 125 small lemons, so everybody can take home a lemon.
Yeah,
We actually like
that's awesome.
increased quantity. And also for your fruit trees, just that extra care for your fruit trees that survived, or if they are just now starting to come back, how to give them a haircut and really do the corrective pruning that's needed.
That is awesome.
And that extra care.
I love that. I think that's wonderful. That's so cool. Great classes coming up. Where do people go to kind of sign up, learn about these classes?
When you go to our webpage, urbanharvest.org, go ahead and click on classes and you will find that. We also have a free short edible guide to gardening, a series of 5 videos that you can access by registering, and then you can get started in gardening. We also have Bob Randall's book, Year-Round Gardening for the Houston area, that is now available for purchase online from our website. This is really new for us in selling it and vending it on our website.
That's awesome.
So urbanharvest.org, go to the classes page. And, you know, we do manage the largest farmers market in the state of Texas on Westheimer. And we also have now a mobile food truck delivering fresh produce straight to communities in need. For folks with SNAP benefits, can double their dollars with our mobile market and also at the farmers market. So any produce, we will match SNAP benefit dollars to basically give a discount on fruits and vegetables from farmers.
Oh, that is absolutely phenomenal. What a cool thing. You guys are doing so much, and it's always like new creative things, solving the problem of food deserts, solving the problem of getting local farmers their food into the tables, the kitchens, the mouths of people who need to eat it. I love that so much. Urban Harvest doing an awesome job. So we're here to answer your gardening questions. We have some questions already prepared, but we love it when you put a question in the comment and we can get to that. And we have 2 here from Perry. Perry says, I inherited 2 blueberry plants when I purchased my home a year and a half ago. This year, one is full of berries. How do I know when they are ripe? The only thing I know about blueberries is I can buy them in a packet at the groceries. They're in muffins, and there's blueberry cereal at Halloween. Perry, wow, you know a lot about blueberries. That's really incredible how much Perry knows. No, so blueberry care, how does Perry know when they're ripe?
Okay, blueberries. Just basically look and see that you have the deep blue color and then do a taste test. So that way you can test the sugars, the flavor, and obviously when it's too soft, then it's past ripe. So you want to hit that mark of when it's just at the peak of its flavor, when it looks like a big juicy berry that you would buy at the grocery store. Just kind of make sure it has that color. And since we're growing it, sometimes it might be on the smaller side, but just check for the color and do a taste test.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like it's like a gray green almost, the pre-ripe, and then it just goes to that color you're used to. So, and one thing sneaky about them is they can kind of have a little powder on them. And so when you're thinking they're getting ripe, you do want to do a little touch too to see if they're blue under that powder. That can be a little bit of a sneaky deal. And they are getting ripe now. I ate a handful off of my bushes this morning. So lucky for you, Perry. Good stuff there. That's awesome. Perry does have another question. Carol, is it cool if we do one more?
Sure.
Okay. What is the proper order? Aerate, then top dress with compost, or the opposite? Has a Bermuda lawn in Conroe.
A Bermuda lawn. Do not aerate at all. Just donate, toss out your aerator. And maybe you can MacGyver it into a different type of tool, because once you add compost or humates, you are doing a wonderful job of rebuilding your soil microbes. So you will not need to aerate. Right. And I'm going to pass it to Dany, the lawn expert from Garden Pro, and see what he says. Verify.
So, I mean, I don't have anything to add. Other than, if you think about an earthworm traveling through the soil, eating microbes, it's doing a way better job of aerating than you could ever do it, right? It's going from, 1 inch to 12 inches, up to 2 inches, down to 6 inches, and just up and down, side to side. And we're putting these little 3-inch plugs in there. Now, what studies have kind of shown is that the results in the first 3 weeks are better, but then the results from then on are not better. And so if you got to have results here in 3 weeks, well, then you're, and then it doesn't matter what happens long term, then by all means aerate. But I'm with Carol, actually. I do not like aerating. I do not encourage aerating. There are specific situations that it is beneficial. If you've got a very compacted lawn, you would aerate and then you would compost top dress. So that is if you've got a very compacted lawn. So, but with Bermuda, those roots go so quick. If you can get a little bit of air in the soil with your compost, they'll start really doing a lot of that aeration too. So keep that in mind. Perry, that hope that helps. Maybe just saved you some money. You don't have to rent that aerator. Don't have to get out there and do all that work. It's getting kind of hot, so that could be good. All right. So thanks, Perry, for asking questions. If you guys have a question, we would love to answer it. That is what we do, and we have some questions. Again, we pulled off our email that we get when you email us, HomeShow Garden Pros. There's a button there, homeshowgardenpros.com, I should say. There's a button, the Ask a Pro button. Also on that website is a listen button, and you can just tune into the show whenever you want. So it's kind of a cool thing there. So we're going to go to question number 1 here. This is from Jenny. Jenny says, my veggie bed has a lot of nutsedge. I've sprayed sedge hammer to kill them. How soon before I can plant something in that bed?
That question is, there are so many things to unpack in this question, Jenny. Jenny, why did you use sedge hammer to kill them? Because that potentially has taken this veggie bed out of the production rotation for quite a while. So I'm going to ask Dany for some more details on sedge hammer, on what is the main component of it. He did say that it prevents photosynthesis, but is it going to affect the soil, the insects? Because when we grow edible plants, we want to be extra careful that we are using true organics and use our shadow to remove nutsedge when we're growing our vegetables, because what we put in our garden and our soil, we're also putting into our bodies when we grow fruits and vegetables.
Totally agree. It doesn't have a negative effect on soil life or insects. So that's a nice reality of it. It's one of the safer herbicides. Now people have said that about herbicides, and then they turn out to cause cancer. So when it comes down to it, on the label it says not to use in veggie beds. And if it says something like that on the label, you really don't want to use it. And so I specifically, since you haven't planted anything, would do a season with marigolds or, some active kind of soil mover. Maybe do a bunch of peas and then throw all those away. But I personally wouldn't grow vegetables this very first season if you have sprayed that all with sedge hammer.
That's a great suggestion, Dany, because growing something that is a phytoremediator that will absorb different elements from the soil is also sunflowers. Grow sunflowers. That would be a beautiful addition going into summer, and right now is the time to plant sunflower seeds. Nice.
So maybe that's something too, is you can start training some bees to show up, and then your crops will get pollinated as you plant them and grow them. But I would give it a round of flowers, a round of something else before I started getting veggie crops in there, especially root vegetables and things like that. So, but another reminder just to check the label of everything, read it completely before you put it out, ideally before you buy it. That means doing research before you go to the store, right? And so that's the thing, is because you don't want to be tearing open the labels in the store. But they're like a little book. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it's like somebody take the magazine to that bottle, and then you gotta read it all. So just keep that in mind before you do any herbiciding or pesticiding. So hope that helps, Jenny. Kind of a tough scenario, but your best bet is to get something in the ground that'll grow and feed that soil, but then also maybe turn it over enough that you're not dealing with an herbicide in your food. Mm-hmm. All right, next question.
Dany, I do have something to add about nutsedge. Just that nutsedge is a pioneer plant. So it's going to grow in areas where there is nothing planted. And so if you do plant it out heavily with flowers and just keep it densely planted, that will prevent the nutsedge from coming back. Or if you have other bare areas in your garden, either mulch it up or get ground covers planted and your soil covered so the nutgrass won't invade.
That's right. If you want a lot of nutsedge, leave the space with no plants. That's a really true thing that people have seen over and over. I mean, also, those nuts are edible. People call them earth almonds on different parts of the planet in different languages. But the little nuts are edible, and some varieties are tasty and some are super bitter. But that's all to say is that you want to deal with that in a way that's not herbicide in your veggie beds. Molasses is a great option that'll slow it down, and a few repetitive treatments will end up kind of stymieing it all the way. There are options, but it's also not that hard to get out in the veggie bed because you're loosening the soil up. The soil is pretty loose, and veggies like that kind of disturbance a little bit. So, okay, on to the next question. Let's hope this is a happy one. Oh, wait, no.
Dany, I've got a plug for our June 8th class with Mark Merriweather. Texas Foraging is going to have a class so we can learn about which weeds in our garden are sort of good guys we can eat, we can attack the enemy and eat them, and which ones we just want to get rid of and not have at all that are not edible. So we do have that edible wild plant foraging class for vegetable gardeners.
Yeah, eat the weeds. Absolutely. That's great. Nutsedge is one of those. We got another question about dayflower coming up, and that's an edible one. Kind of cool. All right, here we go. Question number 2. It's from Cody. Cody says, what's a good plum tree to plant on the cypress area? I knew this was going to be a happy one. Thinking my buddy told me Black Beauty, but he was down in Texas City. Probably not Black Beauty. That's the name of that horse. But what do you think, Carol? What's a good plum for cypress? Thinking maybe 500 flowers.
Oh, you want to go with a variety with more than 500 chill hours?
No.
In Cypress,
max.
Texas? No.
500 max is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, well, the Gulf Rose plum is about 275 chill hours, and the Gulf Rose plum is just gorgeous fruit, nice rose color. I would recommend that one. And I would also, if you have the Black Beauty plum available, I would go with that one because I think that for Texas City and the Cypress area, those plums would work well because the climate is getting a little bit warmer. I mean, we did have that major freeze this winter, but in general, we are getting less chill hours. So then that you would always have fruit with those plums. And so I'll pass it to Dany to see which other varieties would you recommend?
Thank you. There is a Gulf Beauty that would be a kind of a co-pollinator with a Gulf Rose. There's also one called Gulf Blaze. To me, there is a beauty plum. And, if you have the really, really low chill hour plums and you're up where you're getting kind of even late frosts, it will nip those flowers off a little bit sometimes because the earlier the chill hours, the earlier the plant fruits. And so I have truly enjoyed having the Gulf series, Blaze, Beauty, and Rose in my garden because they're beautiful flowers, they're nice medium-sized trees, and you get a lot of fruit every single year unless you have a freeze. And so that's 1 in 10, basically, I've been nipped. And so 2 out of 10, maybe you wouldn't get them. But if you tried to go a lot higher in the chill hours, you're talking about not getting fruit, very often at all. So, yeah, that Gulf Beauty is a great one to go with. But there is also Beauty plum, very tasty plum, and its kind of pollinator partner is Santa Rosa. And so those are 2 to go with there.
Great information.
Do you mind telling the good people out there what chill hours are?
So that's a total number of hours of cold weather that the fruit needs to break its dormancy for producing flowers and setting fruit. So if you don't get that number of chill hours, then that year we will not break that dormancy to be able to set fruit. You may get flowers and they'll fall off.
I was at a store one time, Houston Garden Center, and they had a 1,200-hour peach called Sunburst. I was furious. I was like, I need to talk to somebody, but there was nobody to talk to, so I just left. I swore to myself I would never buy a fruit tree there, because if you can't trust the person you're buying a fruit tree from, because they may be selling a 1,200 chill-hour fruit, that peach tree will never make fruit here. So somebody bought it, planted it, and they're like, well, you can't grow peaches in Houston, and they're telling everybody they know that, and a few people are believing them, and then you've got people being like, oh, I heard you can't grow peaches here. So anyway.
Well, that was my dad. That was my family when I was growing up, because my neighbor had a peach. We would just like always climb in her peach when the peaches were ready, and that was so much fun. So we got a peach, and we never got peaches, and didn't know why until most recently.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's wild. It's a vicious cycle is what it is. It's a vicious cycle. Okay. Question number 3. Here we go. From Bethany. Celery has a garden diva reputation. Celery, especially in the hot South. Has anyone here tried to grow it? Succeeded? Failed? Marginal success? Great question, Bethany.
This is a good question, Bethany, because every chef in town wants to grow celery, because celery is what you use for your soup stock, just so many recipes as a foundational vegetable, just to enhance flavor and high in silica. So lots of great things about celery. So you're right, we're down here in the hot South. It's about to, break records pretty soon, going to the end of May. Our sweet, cool summer, spring is just about over. So have we grown celery? Yes. So in our community gardens, we usually plant it, and some of the availability of transplants will be in October. So you want to plant it as a cool weather vegetable, and don't expect nice, fat, juicy stalks, but grow it more for the leaves so that you can still harvest and get that flavor. You'll just have little pencil thin, skinny stalks and lots of leaves and foliage that you can still use in soup and your dressing for the holidays. So basically wait until October and see if you can find it at our local nurseries. That is when it will be available.
Have you are you familiar with the food ants on a log?
Yes.
So you get the celery,
peanut butter and the celery, yes.
And then you put raisins on there. Yeah, it's a yes. favorite of mine and my friends when we were growing up. But that's not the celery. You're saying that kind of celery is not what you get.
Well, it is not, because it will be too rough and stringy, and so you've got to adapt that recipe, Dany, for our Gulf Coast region, and just go out and pick a charred leaf. And so we've got to make, instead of ants on a log, we're going to make Taco Tuesday tacos from the garden with chard or kale for the taco shell, your peanut butter or sunflower seed butter, and sprinkle some little like herbs and toppings on it.
Or maybe some of Harry's fresh blueberries.
Yes, or some blueberries. Yes.
That would be good. That would be good. So it sounds like if you're in Houston, you got to expect your celery to be an herb. I mean, the way you use basil or thyme or something like that is the way you use celery. You chop it up, you use it as a base for a soup, sprinkling on top of a pasta dish. Sounds amazing, actually. And that's how I generally use celery anyway. So great. Mm-hmm. So it's a winter crop.
Yes, for the Houston area, the cool season crop.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Great info. On to the next question. Here we go. From Joni. Anyone you having watermelon in the ground? She's asking, does anyone have watermelon in the ground? How's yours doing? And then she lets us know. She gave us an update. Ours is slowly coming in. So.
Okay, so Joni, good job in having your watermelon planted at the right time of the year, because a lot of folks don't plant it until we get the watermelon at the market in June and July. Right. So we got some more watermelon transplants in the ground yesterday, and I have a seedling coming up in my garden. And why is it slowly coming in? So we'd have to go through the punch list to troubleshoot, how is your soil? We've had a lot of rain and cool nights, so maybe that has slowed it down a bit. And with this warm weather and spring transitioning to summer, I think it's going to take off. I think it's just still right now. It's just kind of waiting for the cool weather to warm up. So if you've got great soil, nicely mulched, it was well composted, all of those other things in place, and I think it's basically our temperature.
Yeah, and with watermelon, like you're saying, you want to get it in the ground earlier than you think. Not too early, because if it's too cold, nothing happens. But then it grows and it starts growing slowly. But then if you've got the good soil, it explodes. This seems to be like all squash, cucumbers. It's like they start kind of slow, and you're like, is it going to grow? What's going to happen? And then boom, you've got so many that you're having a hard time keeping up with them. So any good fertilizer tips for watermelon? Any other like care things that she should be aware of?
Well, if she has a lot of seedlings in a group, you'll definitely want to thin it to 1 or 2, because one plant needs 8 square feet of space. That's how much space it needs. It's a lot. And so I'm kind of interplanting watermelon in my garden bed. And so this year I actually gave it 3 feet. I gave it 3 feet because I want some room for it to spread around. And basically a constant supply of water, because we will get through these high peaks of heat and really dry things out. So just keep your water constant to get a nice production coming in. And microlife, what would you say the rate of application for organic full spectrum plant food would be?
I mean, I would put down, depending on the plant, maybe a half cup every month, or maybe a quarter cup every 2 weeks, something like that. And that's just kind of sprinkled around the area, trying to get the roots some action, and then you're going to improving your soil. But again, read the bag. What's the bag say? So that's what I would suggest. It's interesting you said that about the constant water, though, because the one year I had amazing watermelon was 2011, the drought year, and I had funneled my my AC drip water, the AC like condensates and drips off water, into a barrel, and that barrel went into the garden, and basically the hose was right at the watermelon all year, and so it had very consistent water kind of every single day, every single second, and that was the one year I had an absolutely banner crop of watermelon. So it's interesting you say that. Unlocking wisdom.
Okay, do we have another question?
Are you so impressed with yourself? That was like really.
I'm like, oh, are you talking to me?
Yeah. Are you impressed with yourself for giving me that great information?
Oh, well, I feel like it's not enough. And also there's Auntie Google.
No.
Are we competing with Auntie Google? Everybody can kind of Google information, but it's great being interactive and sharing knowledge, and basically going to our website to volunteer at a community garden. You can look at our affiliate garden network and find a community garden near you and just contact them direct so that you can get to know a gardener in your neighborhood. And that's a great way to get information.
Here's the thing is my friend Carol can give me great advice, and she never gives me bad advice. Auntie Google isn't quite so reliable. So we are going to go to the next question. You don't always get great answers on Google. That's what the G stands for. Not always great. So here we go. Next question. All right. This is from Merle's. And she asked, is there any product that gets rid of weeds that is safe for dogs to be around, specifically Asiatic dayflower? Thank you. Well, she hates dayflower.
Oh, she doesn't like it. Oh, I thought she meant that she wants to keep that. That's her primary plant that she's gardening for.
I think that's her primary weed she hates. I love it. And I lost all mine in the freeze, actually.
Okay, so the Asiatic dayflower, that one is edible, isn't it?
Yeah, the leaves are edible.
Yeah, okay, so it's edible. So any products to get rid of weeds and safe for dogs to be around. Okay, there is nothing like shadow. And one of the things that we can get exercise with and interact in our garden is basically being out there a lot so we see our shadow. And that's supposed to be the best old school remedy for getting rid of weeds, and then mulch it so that it will suppress weeds. And we really like the Asiatic dayflower. So maybe potting that and actually just physically removing it from the garden if you don't care for it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it, especially in the garden. It's in the lawn. We do like a product called AgriLawn, It's a little wettable powder you sprinkle on stuff. I'm not sure if it works on dayflower, but most of our southern lawn weeds can't handle it, and it is safe for dogs. So that's a nice thing there. Safe for people.
So how does this powder work in targeting weeds?
Yeah, so it's a desiccant. Basically, it's a mixture of different herbs, table herbs like cumin and cinnamon, and there's some other products in there too that are other things that you would recognize as food ingredients. And so this combination kind of luckily opens the stoma, the leaves of the plant, gets in there, gets channeled down to the roots, but it's a desiccant, so it dries everything out. So you wet the leaf, sprinkle it on, sucks it down the root, and it dries it all out. It damages a lot of plants, but it doesn't kill Bermuda and St. Augustine, which is kind of nice. So it's great. You got to apply it right and go careful, and it doesn't kill everything, but that's the nice thing about it. It kind of smells nice too. So yeah, Agrelon. It's fun in lawns.
Okay.
I wouldn't use it in my veggie garden because the idea is that I'm there, I'm tending it, digging in the soil to dig out those weeds is a great chance for me to kind of fluff the soil anyway, which again, veggie plants are they're a little bit beneath prairie plants in the succession plan, so they're not that advanced of plants generally, and so they like a little bit of disturbance. And if you have perfect soil and perfect watering, sometimes the soil gets a little, too rich, and you see a bunch of acorns start popping up. So I like to kind of, dig in there to get the weeds out myself. So that's what I do. It's like kind of a secret for success. And that's what you're saying when you're talking about your shadow.
Yes, because just being out in the garden and interacting with the plants and doing that maintenance. Absolutely. If you can work it in, that's great. And I know a lot of folks are busy and working, but sometimes our perspective that we want one product that will do it for us, sometimes it's not sustainable because the cost of those concentrated herbs is a bit high. So maybe if you can balance it out with sometime in the garden, then you're applying that one particular product to help you out, and a combination of things. I think an integrated approach to gardening is best.
Yeah, and we're learning so much. We have a speaker coming in with OBA, Doug Talamay, in July, and he's really noticed this, and raised the alarm about the rapidly declining numbers of songbirds in neighborhoods and in the U.S., and a lot of it is because their food is going away. Well, what's their food? Weed seeds and caterpillars that eat weeds. And so it's like, what can we do to help the birds? Well, we can stop caring about the weeds in our lawn. That's what we can do. And instantly we have more birds. It's like that. It's that easy. And so that's one thing just to kind of think of too, is that maybe you have a chance to celebrate diversity. If it's dominating your St. Augustine, your soil's in poor condition. St. Augustine is a dominant grass. And so that's just, that's a reality. If you're losing the battle against your weeds, either you're mowing too low or your soil needs improvement. Other than that, you can kind of let it be diverse. So good stuff there. Good news for everyone.
Oh, what is some good news?
Oh, that if you leave weeds in your lawn, you actually help help fight against the decline of the bird population.
That's right. I'm sorry, Dany. Yes, that is excellent news. I love that advice. I mean, because I'm just sitting here in reverie, just remembering the times that I looked out my window because there were some weeds that had gone to seed. Like the day before, I was thinking, maybe I should pull that up and put it in the compost pile. But then when I looked out the next day, I saw some little sparrows hanging upside down to eat those seeds. And I was like, the birds are here. And you're absolutely right. There is a huge decline in population of birds overall. And so it is important for us to have those little wild spaces in combination with our formal areas to feed the birds and the insects, the lizards, the bees, the butterflies. So very important, great news advice.
Thank you very much for saying that. So tell me something, as it gets hotter, do you do any indoor gardening?
I do some, because I do try to cultivate house plants, but it's actually better if a member in your household loves container gardening. That's part of being part of a community or having a family is to nurture someone's love of container gardening because I'm actually not very good at container gardening because I forget about those plants and I don't water them. So actually succulents, I do really well with succulents because I can forget about them and they still look gorgeous until I pay attention to them and a little bit more care, then they sort of take off.
Yeah.
So I have indoor house plants to purify my air. So I have the sansevieria and the money plant and peace lily to bring good energy inside my home.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to get some sansevieria. Well, we have Mary Gonzalez. She's from Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens, and she's going to teach us some about how to have great succulents plantings in the house. So here we go. Over to you, Mary.
Super.
Hi everybody, it's Mary with Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens, and succulent bowls are a wonderful gift to give somebody because they're super simple and easy to take care of. I'm going to plant one up right now so you can see how easy these guys are. I'm using a mix of a premium potting soil and expanded shale. The expanded shale is going to add in fluff and make sure that this soil drains very well because succulents don't like to be moist all the time. They like to have their roots dry out, and that's why they have such thick leaves. They store their water in the leaves here. But I'm going to take this little sedum and it's going to go in the back side here. Add in this guy on the side. And these are wonderful to have on patios. If you don't have a lot of room, you can put them on a desk inside even. I have these little guys, in fact, sitting on my windowsill in my kitchen, and I just love these guys. Take him out of here. There we go. This guy's really cool. You can get these in all sorts of different colors. We're gonna add that in there for the height and the color there. All right, I'm gonna finish out by adding in the extra soil. Plants around here. And as I was saying, succulents are super easy and simple. The biggest mistake people make with succulents is giving them too much care. You don't have to care for these guys that much. Honestly, watering them about once a week is pretty much all they need. You don't want it to be super moist.
Thanks, Mary. Great advice as always. And man, I couldn't take my eyes off that little pop of red on that top of that little cactus. That was so cute. Any thought about
those are gorgeous succulents.
Yeah, and
I love her advice.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But it's funny. It's like you get people sometimes that are like, I can't garden. I always kill rosemary, and I'm like, well, don't do something to plant that needs a lot of your attention. You know what I mean? Like they should do annual flowers or something like that. Or people are like, I always kill annual flowers. It's like, well, you should try rosemary. I kill succulents with overcare. I try to like get the water right and time it all the time and make sure it's just moist enough. And it's like, okay, you really just got to pull back and let them be. And they're beautiful. So remind us again of the classes that are upcoming and how people can sign up for them.
Sure. So our upcoming classes, starting this Saturday, we have Square Foot Gardening with Angela Chandler. Then next week on Wednesday, we have Summer Care and Pruning of Fruit Trees. And then on Saturday, May 14th, we have Soil, Compost, and Mulch with John Ferguson of Nature's Way Resources. Just go to urbanharvest.org and click on classes to find the list of our classes and resources. And so we hope to see you there in the garden through Zoom. These are all Zoom virtual classes. And so wherever you are in the world, you can sign up and learn more.
That's awesome. Thanks, Carol. So urbanharvest.org is the way you go. And they have a great website in a lot of ways. Good nonprofit that we love lifting up. For more information about our show, every single Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., we do our radio show, Home Show Garden Pros. Go to our website, homeshowgardenpros.com. And now we want you to get out there and garden.